A few of the things that we've been talking about. There we go. There we go. I don't know if I was doing that, but one of the things we talked about from this book, the gospel ministry, is contemporary, daring, and biblical. We know that times change and the gospel doesn't change, but sometimes we need to be able to present it in different ways. Our world today is less Christian than it ever has been before. We're almost at 20% of young people, and it's actually 20% of all people, but majority are young people who do not know Jesus. They know about him because, again, we're in America, we're in the United States, and we know about the church maybe at a distance. So they know about the church, they know about all the other religions too, but they just don't follow, they don't commit. The church as a whole, and I'm going to go with all churches, so that's Jewish synagogues, that's mosques, that every religion is declining in the United States, in North America. Now, around the world, Christianity is growing, Islam is growing, there's other religions that are growing, but in North America, United States and Canada to be specific, the church is declining. We've lost ways to reach younger people. It's kind of like, I think I've used this analogy before, but I talk about like coffee. Coffee has changed over the years. It used to be that you would only drink black coffee for my parents. Black coffee. They didn't like milk in it. But as soon as creamer came out, like the fancy French vanilla, or you get even fancier, like the Oreo cream, or what Cold Stone has come out with it, their own vanilla like flavoring. You go to the store and there's like 3 doors full in the cooler section full of different creamers. Now my mom will drink her creamer with a little bit of coffee now. But it's not just plain coffee. It used to be I have to have my coffee. Well, now it's changed to, more creamer than coffee. But same thing too. We have coffee that comes in espresso form. We have coffee that come in flat whites or lattes or mochachinos and all these other things. It's still coffee. It's just been, flavorized to be palatable for those who are seeking it out. Now, we don't change the gospel message. We don't adapt it in ways that make it more appealing for people. I've said this before, but you can't go to a person who's starving on the side of the street and just say, hey, Jesus loves you, it'll be okay. At least when you die, you'll go to heaven. No, they don't hear those words that way. We help them. We give them a leg up. We offer them food. We offer them connection. We offer someone to look at them other than just, you're just worthless on the side of the street, that you actually care for them. They find the love of God that way. Then they can hear the gospel message. So we're not changing the gospel message, but it's knowing the context and how to present it. And so gospel ministry is contemporary, it's daring, and it's biblical. It used to be that everyone would go to church. It was a community event. Everyone would be there, whether they believed or not. So they would hear the gospel message at least in some way. Now people aren't even showing up for church. It's better to take gospel initiatives that fail than to fail to take gospel initiatives. I rather go down swinging because God has prompted us to go in directions for His glory than to shut every door that God has offered us. Jesus says, pick up your cross and follow me. Things are going to get uncomfortable. Things are going to get weird. I wonder how the disciples felt following after Jesus all the time. Those are some of my favorite stories. The feeding of the 5,000. Jesus, you're crazy. We got 5 loaves and 2 fish. This won't feed us. Jesus does amazing things when people take a leap of faith. It's better to take gospel initiatives that fail than to fail to take gospel initiatives. The last several months, I know we're in this time of COVID. We've gone through a revitalization process. That's not done. That is continual. Don't think, we've done this. Now, why isn't everything changing? Well, it's a continual process that will still continue for a long time. We can never stop revitalizing. It's the RCA, the Reformed and Always Reforming. We're always looking at what God says to us today and seeing where God is leading. So the last several months, we've kind of taken this time where we know that we aren't getting a lot of guests in church, which is fine because, again, not everyone's venturing out. Things are opening up a little bit more. That's why we've set the June 6th of no more masks in our church events, or at least not requiring it. You can still wear them. But again, last several months, we're really focusing on, okay, how do we, one, get the community to be aware of us, and how do we make sure that we're aware of the community and the community needs and stuff going on? We worked on different communication structures, and we're still working on that because communication can never be completely perfect. We've reevaluated ministry programs, and probably not, dang it, there we go. Maybe not the last thing that should be there, but probably the first thing is that we pray about it. At the beginning of our consistory meeting, we pray. Then we go pray for our ones because we know how important that is. And it's important for the accountability to know that each one, that we're actively seeking out those gospel encounters, that we're actively praying for each other and praying for our ones. And so, yeah, over the last several months, we've been doing some of the groundwork things, foundational things, really trying to set us up for that when things open up again, because what statistics have been showing is that church is a place that people are really flocking back to. Again, it goes in strides. There's different states who are seeing it. There's other states who are not. It goes in strides and cycles, but church is a place that people have said that they've missed. So yeah, last several months, I mean, we've done a few things. We've turned our Wednesday night meal into a free community dinner. We've partnered with State L schools with like the football program. I think we'd had one other sport here too, I think. We've partnered with them more. We've actually received emails from their district asking us to pray for them. We've worked with them during this time, they've had all the drinking fountains shut down, so we've provided bottled water and cups for them. Like, we're building those relationships with our community. And again, it's not sitting there like, yeah, let's pat ourselves on the back, but the community needs to know that we love them. Amen? We love our community. We need them to know that we love them and care about them. Now, we've done gifts and like goodie bags and stuff for our teachers in the area. We know that our teachers have been under a lot of pressure this year. Things keep changing out from under their feet. It's been a tough year for them too. And so, yeah, we've been building relationships with new families on Wednesday nights. We've done a lot of things, a lot of exciting things. One of the things when we talk about like new ministries, we think of, okay, brand new, they're exciting. We think of it like the perfect ways to do it. Of course, we rejoice in stories of gospel success, but we need to be wary of, quick fix solutions. New buildings, new programs, new anything seems really nice. We can make nice plans, but gospel ministry is messy. When all of a sudden you get 100 little kids running around, something's going to get broken. Is that okay? Yes. You know why? It's better having 100 kids than no kids. Is it okay that we had to replace the carpet because we walk on it so much that it's worn out? Yes. But things get messy. All of a sudden, like, we talk about how we're caring for the community, that this is a place where anyone belongs, and all of a sudden you get someone who's addicted to drugs and alcohol. Things get messy. It's not always like the perfect scenarios that we see that, oh yeah, we want people who look like us, act like us, who are just going to come in, and oh yeah, they want to study Scripture. Now, things are going to look differently. They might be in Bible studies that meet at homes. You can think of, I mean, you can just keep rambling. I'm not going to speak for 3 hours on this. Gospel ministry doesn't always look perfect in our eyes. It often looks messy. Again, new buildings, new programs, new anything, they become used. It's like buying a brand new car. The moment you even take it for a mile drive, it's used. I know I don't have a whole lot of time to be able to, in this past year, talk more about me and get to know me a little bit more. I grew up in the church. I love the traditions of the church. Don't ever look at me and say, oh, Pastor Jacob's trying to push for these new things because he doesn't like those old things. I grew up with hymns. I love hymns. But I also think about one of my best friend from high school. Hymns don't get him. He doesn't understand hymns. He can sing the song or sing the words. He doesn't know what the words mean half the time. Now, that's not saying all hymns are like that, and we've, as a worship team, have talked about some of those things, but we're thinking about, again, our ones and how we want them to feel welcome and accepted here, and that they can find a place where they might meet God. And so, again, I fell in love with my church. I love the church. I love the traditions. I fell in love with my church, though, by serving in my church, by being a part of something, and by being empowered, making it so that it wasn't just a church I attended, but it was a place that I felt like home and was also a part of it. I realized that my unchurched friends didn't feel welcome. They'd sometimes feel welcome at youth group. They wouldn't feel welcome at Sunday school. They wouldn't feel welcome at church. I realized that my friends weren't actually a part of the mission of the church that I went to either. Some sad reality is that my unchurched friends weren't part of the mission of the church, wanting to reach after them. There's 40 kids in my youth group that grew to 70 in a few years. They were all church kids, though. What happened? Where's the lost, though? Why didn't the lost feel welcome? Those who didn't know Jesus, why didn't they feel welcome? Maybe it was us as students who weren't trained enough to reach out to our unchurched friends, or maybe we just didn't feel like we could invite them. Who knows? But I fell in love with the church by serving. My unchurched friends didn't feel welcome at church. Who's the lost sheep in this story? It's the unchurched friend. Again, as we look ahead, we've had several sermon series. We had Thrive. That very first one, again, overarching kind of series throughout the year is how do we thrive? God's will versus our own. We talked about that. We talked about what is God leading us into versus maybe where we want to go. Because God's will is always grand. God has a grand plan for us, for your life, for this church, and for the world. My plans are often safe and warm, well-fed. May not always be that way. We talked about negativity and negativity between church members, negativity towards the church, and negativity towards leadership. We talked about praying for leadership. We talked just about how negativity and how others see that. They don't see a place of love, they see a place of negativity. Then we went into Reach the Summit. Now, there's a few weeks here and there, but Reach the Summit, we talked about a discipleship pathway. This poster will go up eventually. There's a reason why we did that sermon series. That we talked about seekers, we talked about believers, we talked about followers, and we talked about disciples and disciple makers. There's a reason why these sermons just don't God does lead, but it isn't just like randomly, like God's leading, like it's like scattering, like paintballing. Like, there's a reason for these things. We talk about these things because within our programs of ministry, we talk about, okay, where do people fit in? Like, how does this reach seekers? How does this reach believers? Those who are followers? How do we empower disciples to lead ministries and programs? If we have a newcomer who comes in, who wants to get connected in some way, where do they fit in? Where do they fit in? But how do we get people plugged in to be a part of the church? And now we're into our Reach One. We got to have a one. We got to think about one person that we know that doesn't know Jesus and pray for them. And think about them. We want them, it doesn't matter if it's here or at another church, we want them to know Jesus. If they don't be a member here, but they be a member over at like Adventure Life down in Altoona, guess what? At least they're going to church, right? At least they're getting to know God. I don't even care if they're not here Sunday morning, but we have a Bible study that meets, let's say, down at some coffee shop. Cafe Diem, that's that way. They meet at Cafe Diem on Wednesday evenings. Yeah, they don't come here on Wednesday nights, but they go there Wednesday evenings at a Bible study. Hey, guess what? They encounter Jesus, don't they? Amen, right? They meet Jesus. Does it have to be Sunday mornings? No. Do we want to worship with them eventually? Yes. But praise be to God if they worship with someone else or worship with someone at the Bible study. Some people just won't ever step into a church, and we have to be okay with that. They just won't. Maybe they work on Sunday mornings. Maybe that's the only way they feed their family, and that stuff's okay. Maybe they meet God somewhere else. We're talking about a 10-year plan. We're talking about different things here at church. 10 years is a long time. Sad to say, most pastors don't last 10 years. But we're talking about 10 years. What would we like to see? We want to see a church that's engaged with the community, that's engaged in the community who seems like lost, whether that's just our immediate community or the community of we call this Des Moines area. People are traveling up to, usually, or sometimes up to 45 minutes, if not further, to go to church. That puts a lot of Des Moines in our kind of a mission zone, but ideally we're looking at, okay, what's a small commute here? Do you know that there's people who've lived in Des Moines their entire life who has no idea that this is a neighborhood? Like, that's tough. It's tough to get your name out there if no one knows you're there. So we're talking about a 10-year plan. How do we, one, get our name out there? How do people get to know who we are? Again, that's thinking about our community, thinking about gospel ministry, being able to let people know that we care about them, that we love them. We believe that in 10 years, when we think of this, where we're going to be, we want to be a church that's on mission. We want to have stuff going around because we have 3 college campuses less than 5 miles away. So we're talking about college ministry. How do we start engaging in some of those things? We talked about a vibrant small group ministry. How do we get involved in those things? Now, we've done some, or the RCA has done kind of an overall survey stuff, reporting throughout different communities in the United States, Des Moines being one of them. Most people are not looking for Bible studies that are on the Bible, or they're not looking for prayer groups. They're looking for places, to find community. I've used that word a lot, and I will continue to use that word a lot. We feel so connected in this world today with Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok and, man, you name it. You can send emails. You don't even wait for 3 days for a letter to get sent now. You have emails that are instant. We feel so connected, but we're also the most isolated that we've ever been in this world. People are hungry for connection, for community, for fellowship with one another. Talk about, what does small group looks like? What does small groups kind of look like within the atmosphere of gyms and cadets? They're small groups, but small groups as a basic structure is, how do people look up to their teachers? Do they love their teachers? Is that a connection that they're going to be made, that they'll continue to have that connection as they go throughout their time? Studies would show that a student needs 5 connections in their local church to be connected for life, so that they will feel like they're a part of something that other people, other than their parents, other than people who are obligated to love them, that other people love them and care about them, and that stuff happens in the church. They need 5 connections, the people that they know that they can go talk to. I go back to my home church and talk to those people. I went out to dinner last night with my parents. A random lady from our church showed up when we were walking out. I have glasses on now. I don't look normal, or I don't look like I did in high school. I haven't been back there since really high school. We chatted for 20 minutes. It was one of the people that had connected to my life in church when I was there. And we still have that connection. We still have a relationship. We talked about community projects. We talked about different things what this community needs. We talked about sidewalks. There's no sidewalks in the community. People want to walk around. They want to have sidewalks. We've talked about what does it look like. Now, again, these are kind of still speculative. There's things that we got to do that lead up to this stuff. But we talked about community projects such as a walking path. What would a walking path look like out in that field? Now, there's some insurance stuff that you got to deal with. But, we're talking about stuff like that. We talked about, what does a ball diamond look like out in our field? What does the gym look like? That's not me coming up with that. Man, that gym has been in pseudo-conversation for how many years? Doug? Many? 50? 50 years. So, there are things that we've talked about and that this church as a whole has talked about as being good for the community that are still just sitting there and we're marinating with it. Let's say that word. And we're still thinking about some of those things, like what does those things look like? So we're, again, engaged with our community. What does our community need where we can reach those needs? What makes us unique compared to the church right next door, to the church down the road, to the church down the other road? What makes us unique? How do we reach people differently than them? What makes us so unique here that God planted multiple churches in one area? I mean, we have a purpose here, and we're focusing right now with how do we reach the needs of our community. That's our relationship with the school has told us that there's a lot of food need in this community. There's shelter need in this community. So we're talking about some of those things. I don't know where my next point went. I think I meant to say that God asked a lot of us. I think that's what I meant to say. God asked a lot. Again, God leads us down places where we may not want to go. I think of Peter walking on water. He did not want to walk on water, not with the waves. But Jesus walks on the water. Not just walks on the water, he walks on the waves, in the turmoil, in the chaos, and leads us through it. God asks a lot of us. So me, as a pastor, I'm going to ask a lot of us. We trust God to lead us where we're going to go. A few things, there's a few tech updates that have come out. If you've logged onto the website last, I think maybe 2 days or day in the last week, it hasn't shown up. In the last day or so, we have a new website up. There's a lot of things on that website. Websites, though, are not an all-inclusive thing that every bit of information about our church is on. Our website is like the front door. It's the first place that most younger people, I'm going to say, will look at before they ever come visit us in person. And we call it a front door. It's also a good back door as well. If your website they can't find information on, they'll look, they won't find it, and they'll go check out somewhere else. Webpage is a good front door. It's more of like a flyer that's digital that people get to know the highlights. They'll get to know who we are. They can engage further if they want. And hopefully, we update it. We have events. We have different things that are advertising who we are as a church. Get them connected a little bit more. There's stuff on the website, like there is a digital connection card on there, so people who watch us online can find that on there as well, get to know us a little bit more. There's a few things that still need to kind of be worked through and updated, but it has a list of programs on there. Again, not all-inclusive stuff. If you have updates or stuff for the website, send those notes to me, please. We'll update that, the best we can. Again, it's a community engagement website. Every new restaurant that me and Mallory go to, Mallory's on her phone looking at the restaurant, looking at the menu, because she's going to decide what she's going to eat before she gets there. She's got to know that there's something for her before she goes. People do the same thing with churches. They got to know that there's something there for them before they go. They got to have a connection. They got to have a reason. They got to have something that they can grab onto before they make it. And so the new website's up. There is an app. We've been talking about a church app. Knew this was coming. There's going to be a church app. You can find that link for that on the website. It'll ask for your phone number. I will throw up a video too. Video's file's too large, and I've been struggling to try to get that from my phone to the website. But there will be a video on to kind of show you and walk through everything with the app. But you can go to the website. There's a little link on the right menu that'll say download our app. You can you type in your phone number on that. It'll send you a link to the app. You click that link. It'll download to your phone. It'll show up as Bethany Church. It might show up as Tidely at first, but it'll show up. You can click on that. There are multiple things on that. It'll show our events. It'll show our messages. There'll be the Get Connected, which is the digital connection card that you can use that. There will be a prayer wall on there. That's something a little different. There'll also be a news feed place as well. So like Facebook news feed where you can just like scroll through that and everything that's updated. There'll be a news feed thing for that for the church. So any videos that we've posted, any Facebook posts, will just go directly to that without any ads or whatever thing that Facebook throws on. Again, back to the app of the prayer wall. You can add prayer requests to that. Now, I suggest if you want something private, don't put it on the app. The app is not only for church members. That's our prayer email. Anyone can go in and download the Bethany Reformed Church app. But if you would like to throw a prayer request on there, feel free. You put a title, you put who it's about, and then you can put a description on. Now, people can comment on that as well. So you have a prayer request on there. People can say, hey, praying for you. You can ask for requests on there too. And those things will get sent to the administrator, which right now is me. It gets approved, gets thrown on the website or on the app. Now, that does not take over. Please do not let that take over our prayer chain emails. If you want a prayer chain email to go out, we've done some reworking with that as well. Within the consistory, we talked about how our pastoral care committee chair, Susan Coles, should receive those emails, or I should receive those emails, or Scott should receive those emails. So one of us should receive those emails. If better yet, include all three of us, so that we know that stuff doesn't get missed, so that we can make sure that we get those emails out as best we can. Sometimes I'm busy, sometimes Scott's sleeping, right, Scott? Sometimes Susan's busy. So we're trying to get those things out. I know that as of the last few years, it's been Joe Harms, but we thought about being better to send it to our pastoral care chair, so that they, can then start with the working around with the committee on, providing pastoral care. And so we talked about us three being part of that, and so that's where that private or prayer chain stuff should still go to. If you want it private, we can still make it private. We can admit details if you want. Just let us know. But if you want any other prayer requests to be public for our church members, again, no run randomly from, let's say Dallas, Texas. Most likely, obviously there's a 1% chance there's going to go to our website and download our app and look at your prayer request. Now, there are some confidential stuff in there. I might send you a note or send you a message saying, hey, please revise this, because we don't want to give out too much personal information type of thing too. All those are approved of for that reason. But again, on the app, there's a place where you can put prayer requests and whatnot with that. I feel a little prideful with this. The app, I found out and had to tell Tylee that their programming is wrong, because we could get the live stream on Mallory's phone, but we couldn't get it on mine. So Samsung versus Android versus iOS. So they're working on that, but you will be able to access the live stream through that as well. There'll be a chat window in that. You can share it from that as well. So some really cool things with that. There also is a place where on the very bottom of the other menu is a place to find, it says Sunday Morning Crew. It's a place where we'll have a list of who's serving those Sundays to be able to be a reminder. If you want to check if you're serving that Sunday, you can click on that and find it, and check that out. The other cool thing about the app is that you can sign up for notifications. I really wanted a video to be able to show you for all this, but we'll get that out this week. That you can sign up for notifications. You can sign up for, let's say you are a parent, you want to sign up for Wednesday night communications. Maybe you serve on Wednesday nights, you can sign up for that. You can sign up for other events. You can sign up for, if you're on the worship team, to get those notifications. Or we can just send you notifications for the entire church. But that's really a cool way, like Facebook. I don't know if everyone's on Facebook or not, but someone comments on something or someone tags you in a photo, you get a notification usually that says, hey, check out Facebook, someone did this. Now, that's the same thing with this app. If we do have this morning we had a power outage, and we could send out a notification, before church, and it goes to everyone's phone who has the app that says, hey, we had a power outage at church, please plan accordingly, we have no AC. You figure that stuff out. So some of the cool things with that, it can't be all inclusive, but again, trying to give out as much information as I can for that as well. Again, really to focus on is that we're praying to God to give us opportunities to engage our community. Again, we think with the website is hopefully engaging our community in ways that they'll be able to see us, get to know us a little bit better. Send me photos. Please take photos. Whether that's at church or at other events. Take photos, send them to me. I know the Vanderwhiteys have done several of those. I try to take some at different events, but there are way better photographers out there than me. So send me photos. We can put those on the website or on the app as well, and just, again, display that for our community to see what we're doing. See we're not a scary place. So, again, mission opportunities, seeing where God leads. There have been several times throughout this past year that God's opened a lot of doors. And I think, are faithful enough that we look at those doors, we peek our head through, see if it's a way that God's leading us either now or maybe later. And some of the doors I've shut, some of the doors we've walked through, some of the doors that we're still walking through. But again, it's about prayerfully trying to discern where God is leading, where is God leading right now, and where is God leading in the future for those things. So again, a lot of things are happening in looking for that community engagement. And kind of that 10-year plan. Again, focusing on small groups, focusing on how do we build fellowship with one another, how do we reach our one? One of the examples of knowing where, like that guy on that video said, like, you can have the best sermons ever, people might not show up. They can find teaching. I mean, we're in a digital age, man. If you want to find the best sermons ever, you can find someone better than me. Find people worse than me, too, I think. Maybe that's prideful. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. But, I mean, I know pastors that I listen to. What we've come to find out is actually a lot of church members are watching like 3 or 4 sermons actually a week from different places. They have connections to different places. My mom has watched our sermons before. And so it goes into, we're in a digital age. Best sermons can be found somewhere or whatever floats your boat. If you want the best music, you can find those somewhere else too. Like, it's always people who engage other people. People go to restaurants often because someone recommended it to them. If someone gives a bad review of a restaurant, they often won't go. It's always people with people. One of the examples I have from a church that I've been at, like average Sunday attendance was like 100, 110. The average Easter service was like 150. For like an 8-week stretch, we did a big push about inviting people for Easter. If you wanted anyone to come for a big gospel-centered like service that really hit home of like Jesus came to die for you, come to Easter. 250 people showed up. Never had that kind of attendance before. And it all came from people just engaging one another. We can send out flyers and postcards and direct mailers all we want. Again, unless people feel connected to something, unless they know that they're going to feel welcome, they're not going to show up. It doesn't start with me. It really starts with you. To have one person in mind that you can pray for and reach out to. Sometimes it's not just plain cold calling them, hey, do you want to go to church with me? It might be that. You might have a relationship with someone well enough to do that. Maybe it's coming to a fall kickoff. Maybe it's coming to, hey, we're going to have a grill out or whatever after church some Sunday. Hey, why don't you come to that? Those are really threatening places to be. And it doesn't have to be awkward either. Do we have that video? Can we play that? I'm not making you switch to another thing, and Joey's looking at me weird. But yeah, inviting someone doesn't have to be awkward. It can be really natural. Here we go.
Palms are sweaty. You have butterflies in your stomach. Let's face it, you're scared. You've rehearsed this conversation in your head 1,000 times. Immediately, your mind starts racing to the worst-case scenario. What if she says no or laughs at me? What if she thinks I'm a weirdo that lives in a van? What if she has ties to the Russian mafia and I end up sleeping with the fishes? Thankfully, you snap out of it. There's no way that'll ever happen. After all, she seems like a friendly person, always nice to you at work, unlike Kathy. What's Kathy's problem anyway? Wait, you're getting off topic. Stop stalling and be a man. You can do this. Just ask. You pick up the phone, your mind is made up. You're gonna do it. After you check Facebook. 20 minutes later, you work up the courage again and you make the call. It rings. You want to hang up, but it's too late. She answers.
Hello?
Your mind goes blank. You didn't think it through this far.
Hey, I'm next to you. I sit next to you at work. It's Tim.
What are you saying?
Oh, hey Tim. What's up? Something go wrong with the Jenkins account?
Jenkins, no.
Why are you laughing?
Actually, I have a question I've been meaning to ask you for a while. Where do you get your teeth cleaned?
The dentist? Why?
Yes, Tim. Why? Why would you ask that stupid question?
No reason. So, what are you doing this weekend?
No plans. How about you?
Here's your chance. Your Your heart starts pounding and your voice quivers as you nervously blurt out,
Do you want to go with me to church?
Inviting someone to church doesn't have to be like an awkward first date. Just ask.
Sometimes we make it just harder than it has to be. Just, again, sometimes we have those events that are invite friendly, to be able to just invite people to say like, hey, you want to go to this with me? Hey, we're doing these kind of things. Again, grill outs are really nice. That's what we've talked about with the resetting of the table. My very first sermon series about just invite people over for food. Again, it doesn't have to be at church. You can just be inviting them over to your house. Get to know them. Like, pray over the meal together. Whether they're Christian or not, you can still pray with them. One of the cool things about prayer is that you can pray for people without their permission. It's a really cool thing that God came up with. So, again, we're just thinking about, how do we engage our community? How do we, as a church, make those places or open up those spaces and those opportunities to be invite-friendly? And again, thinking about our one, because again, it's the most effective way to really reach anybody. Statistics show that only 6% of people will show up to a church because of a pastor. Only 4% leave because of a pastor leaving. So, like, very low numbers on the pastoral aspect. It's in the 70 percentile for friends who invite friends or family who invited family to go to church. If we want to talk about, like, where our focus is, it's about you. Finding someone in your life, whether, again, not just invite to church, but invite to have a relationship with God in some way, shape, or form. And so a lot of this comes down to one of the opportunities that we have looked at as a consistory that we've invested in, that we've talked about, that are still kind of in some works that haven't been finalized yet. But to give an update is we've been talking with a school called Two Rivers Academy. Two Rivers Academy is a school that they work with a lot of homeschool parents, where they send their kids there a couple days a week to get instruction for other coursework. Now, that school in itself sends back to the parents some of the curriculum and say, hey, now you got to teach them on these other off days. So right now, they're down on the southwest side of Des Moines. They got people from almost Ames driving all the way down. They got people from Winterset driving all the way up. They got people all around the Des Moines area driving to that southwest location. They approached us a couple years ago, actually, I think for the first initial, or maybe just over a year ago, for a first initial kind of conversation. We were without a pastor at the time, and so, and then COVID, so some of those conversations kind of dwindled out. They approached Bethany again about what would this look like to be a secondary location for that school, because again, there's a lot of people coming from the Ames area, even, Gilbert and that north side. And there's even more families who are interested if this school had a more northern location. And so, again, we've done a lot of work with this. We've done a lot of praying over this, considering, like, okay, what about denominational affiliations? Are they going to teach bad theology? They are a Christian school, or Christian, like, they don't call themselves a homeschool co-op. I call them somewhat like a homeschool co-op. But they are a Christian group that do teach, or they have a chapel time and a time for catechism every time that they meet and gather. And so, we've kind of vetted some of that, vetted the theology behind them. Is some of the risk factors going in with, like, our church, if we would open up the doors to that? What kind of time commitment? What are the kind of added expenses to that? And really kind of just thinking about, does this benefit us and our mission to serve our community? Does this help us further our goal into growing the kingdom of God? And is this hindering us in any way from our own programs and our own goals? Does it hinder us or stop us from doing any of those things? Again, through prayerful discussion, we've continued with that conversation with them. They've come and checked us out. They've checked out what would the classrooms look like. They've had parents come and kind of check out the space as well. There's not been a final decision yet because they're looking at enrollment numbers, what possibly we'll look at. We're looking at different kind of a relationship between us and them, what that looks like when you get all the documents figured out. Looking at those things, and again, biggest thing is enrollment numbers, teachers working with that and what that looks like. I know there's, I think, going to be a lot of questions, so I'm going to open it up to that right now. Again, this isn't like a for sure thing yet because, again, they don't know, but we've continued down this process that we're looking at. If they need the space, that we might head down that direction.
It's this one.
Trying to understand what you just got done saying so quickly. Are they going to be renting the facility?
What do you mean by like renting? Like,
Are they going to pay us to use the building?
there is a financial aspect to that. It's more or less though like what added expenses will we have because of that. Now the way they approached us is that they don't want to build like a big $10 million school. Go ahead, Dale.
I got another question.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll stay right here. The way True Rivers looks at it is this funding is all by their parents. There is no federal, no extra money. So instead of putting all that money into their own brick and mortar, they'd rather come alongside another church that's already developed and partner with them. So that way they can keep the cost to the parents down low to keep it going. It's actually a win-win because they'll even help. Say our furnaces go out. They'll chip in and help so that finance is not completely on us alone. They would help with that purchase of getting new ones since they're using the building.
Yeah, we talked about in the consistory kind of like a relationship between, if you know anything about rhinos, and they have birds that live on the backs of them. Kind of this relationship between the two, it's beneficial for both. Now, doing more research, I found out that birds actually will peck themselves inside of these animals, so that analogy does break down eventually. But it is a relationship between the two. But that's not been a deciding factor in anything. But we have looked at, okay, what are added expenses with everything as well.
And so to help my old brain understand this, then they'll be coming here for free. We pay the utilities, we pay the insurance, so if somebody gets hurt.
They have their own insurance. We know, like, they have a rental agreement with the place that they're currently at, and it would cover all the expenses plus a little bit extra again for if anything does happen. But their insurance covers everything on them. That's part of the lawyer contracts of, all of their mistakes or accidents are on them.
What about our abuse policies? Would they go through our classes that we had to go through? And if anything, Lord willing, does not happen, sexual abuse that happens every day around us, how are we protected?
Being it's their own entity, they have all of that as well. We did talk to them about, we require background checks for anyone who works with children. And the law is that we do our due diligence. You obviously can't, things happen. Even if you have a clean background check, you can still make mistakes. So as long as we're having them do their due diligence and they're doing theirs, they're covered still under their own policies.
Okay.
Scott.
Do you know how many rooms they're going to be using, and are they using our supplies? Do they bring their own stuff every week? How many days will they be here? Do we have to work around their schedule for funerals and things like that?
Okay, hold on to that. First question was our supplies.
Right. Do their supplies, our supplies?
Yep, they'll bring their own supplies. They'll bring their own things. They've talked about they'll bring in kind of these wheeled cabinets that they will keep their stuff in. And so then when they're not here, it'll all be locked up and kind of in a corner of a room. They take up minimal space. I mean, they're on wheels and stuff, but they turn around and actually are whiteboards on the back. I know several people have gone to the school at the other church. It's Solteria, I think, Baptist Church. When their stuff is all packed up, it's to one side. Now for, supplies and stuff, they bring all their own stuff. Now they've talked about, like, again, if they would want to use our printer and stuff, what's the price per all those things? So they've talked about that, but again, normally they have their own stuff. They're trying to be sufficient with that.
How many days a week?
Days a week. They talked about 2 days a week. They do the other school 3 days a week. So that's for 2.5 days, really, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They would plan to kind of use some of the same teachers here Tuesday, Thursday. Now, during the school year, there's the only thing I can think of is the only thing I can think of anything during on a Tuesday or Thursday is the women's Bible study in the afternoon. And I'm pretty sure that's done when the school year starts, isn't it, or when winter starts. So that's the only conflict that we have at the moment with that. And so we look at some of those things. That's the only conflict that we really have. But they would look at Tuesdays and Thursdays. They would ask that we try not to plan anything here for them, because that's what goes back to Kay's comment of all of a sudden we have random church members who haven't had a background check randomly with students here, at that time. Now, if we have a furnace go out and we need to get them in, we're talking about getting some guest passes or things that say who they are, letting their leadership know too, we have a furnace repairman coming in. Now, this does not cut off access to the church. I know if Betty was here, she would probably talk about how people call in or let us know if they have something to drop in, they don't have a key. We will ask, if you're just going to drop in, please avoid Tuesdays and Thursdays, if at all possible. Can you do it on Wednesday? But maybe once a week we get someone who needs to come in, drop something off. And again, those things are more often on Wednesdays when we're prepping for Wednesday night activities, but those things, shouldn't conflict. You asked about classrooms.
Right. How many classrooms? And also, so with them bringing their own supplies, do we have to lock up our stuff? Do we have to do the same, or I know on Wednesday nights, some of the classrooms have projects that need to dry overnight and they have to use the tables. Do we have to put that away? I mean, I don't know.
Well, so right now, to go back with the classroom side of things, they're looking at, you say 6, Dale? They kind of need a minimum of 6 for them to be able to pay their teachers for what they charge for tuition and stuff. So they need a minimum of 6. When I think Consortia walked around and kind of counted the rooms, that we had 11 that they could use. So there is a 5. There's some that are storage rooms and whatnot right now.
Where does that stuff go?
Again,
I'm
good
just
question.
oh my gosh.
And those things we have, considered. And so we've talked with them. Now, if there are things that need to be laid out to dry, I know we've even talked about could we set up tables in another room that they're not using that we could lay out things there to dry as well. A little bit of a different inconvenience type of thing where, it's not as just convenient as just to leave it on the table, but is it something that we could work around or whatnot? They will ask us to try, keep our stuff not just being spread out, but they talked about if we put, one Bible verses or stuff on the wall, they're going to work around that. They're a Christian organization too, so they're not looking to get rid of our Bible stuff. Most of their stuff is on the whiteboard. I guess one thing I need to clarify too is that they call themselves a classical academy. So they do stuff with technology. It's very limited. Usually that's more for older kids, but a lot of it is memorizing. They teach them how to argue, not be argumentative, but to develop arguments and be able to speak clearly, through that presentation. So a lot of their stuff is, very minimal on what they use.
2 more questions, and I'll let someone else. So if they have chapel and worship, in the past, we haven't let anyone use our sound system unless they've been trained. Do they bring their own? Do they use our keyboard, drums, piano? How does that work? Second one, is this if we pursue this, is it a 1-year trial basis? Is it a 5-year? What if we don't feel it's working and we need to break our contract? Okay, I'm done.
I'll let Dale answer the one about the chapel. Give me 1 second, Dale. I know what we've talked about is that we don't want to commit to anything that we haven't been not assured of, but that's didn't work out the way like it is on paper type of thing. If it comes to be where we're really struggling with this relationship, I think it would be the honorable thing and the gracious thing to go the year, air grievances, but we've talked about only a year, even maybe doing a year, then maybe another year before we would ever consider something longer term. Kind of a discussion with consistory of like, yeah, what does that look like and not. I do know that, again, they put, that at the church that they're at right now and what it would be here is like, if there is something that goes on, like, let's say we have a funeral and it's going to be on a Thursday and there's no reworking that to Friday or Wednesday or whatever, like we let them know and they will just cancel school. So that's one of those things that they say what we do here is always priority number one. They're coming in as a secondary entity that they're not, going to overshadow anything that we do. But I'll let Dale answer the other question.
For use in this room here, they will not use any of our instruments. They will not use the soundboard. If they do need it, I have talked with Andy, and we would make sure somebody from our church was here to run it. But other than that, they don't use technology. 98% of their time is all written books. They don't like technology at all.
Along with that, even the kitchen, they're not even going to use the kitchen. The kids are required to bring a sack lunch, but their sack lunch is going to be, it has to be able to sit in their backpack or wherever they're going to store it. They're not even going to use the kitchen for, we can store the sack lunches in the fridge. None of that is going to be used for that. They are trying to be, we're going to use the building, but we're going to be self-sufficient. We're not going to be asking to use a lot of their equipment in the building. They're going to use very little of our equipment. They just want the rooms, and we'll even know for sure what rooms they're going to be using at the time when that's set up.
Custodial want paid more because they're going to have to clean more?
The question was about the custodial staff cleaning more. The way it's worked out right now is that it wouldn't have to be because I know that they come in Wednesdays or sometime before Wednesday nights, they come in between Wednesday night and Sundays, just kind of check. Well, I haven't talked to them. I mean, they either take out the trash or do kind of some spot cleaning between Wednesday and then, what's his name, Mike? Mike. Well, I know Mike comes in. He was here this morning at like 3 a.m. He comes Sunday mornings at like 3 a.m. to do a lot of his cleaning. So they really do just kind of show up for, okay, how do we stay clean for Wednesday nights if there's another big event? And we tell them those things, but I think it's an hourly thing, isn't it, Dale? But right now we're not expecting any extra for those things.
And Two Rivers themselves will clean up every day after they leave. So it'll be like they weren't even here.
One question or a couple questions I've got are, Wednesday, when we have our Wednesday night meals, you have a lot of people that actually prepare that meal the day before, which is Tuesday. So you've got stuff going on in the kitchen, you've got cooks, how would they react to that? It's not going to be a quiet environment. I mean, you're banging pans around and stuff. How does that affect them?
I mean, what time are you thinking on Tuesday? Like Tuesday evening, Tuesday mid-afternoon?
I know Shell's been here at noon, 1 o'clock, preparing the meal.
Yeah. Dale, you want that one?
Some of the things that you need to get in here, we can work around with Two Rivers about having one or two people closed off into the kitchen. They are going to be out of this church by 3:30. So after 3:30, it's pretty much back open.
Yeah, but like what Dale said, if we give them a heads up saying, hey, we're going to be preparing some food in there, they've talked about that not being really an issue.
Now, the other thing in hearing, why aren't we charging them rent? Why don't we have a figure of what it would take for them to come into our facility, do what they want to do, and charge them rent?
So we've kind of avoided the word rent because for what they're asking, you could easily charge, what, $1,500 a month for that? I mean, if they try to find space, office space somewhere, space like this, especially since we offer, I mean, an area to play, grass, a field to do things on. We actually offer a really nice parking lot too for stuff like that. For what we offer, I mean, we can even throw around a number of like $2,500 a month. Again, it goes back to how do we partner with them? It would be ignorant to say that we don't benefit financially from this as well. When we look at with what we are currently budgeted for within our budget, and like how much we think that it would increase, we actually stay under budget, so what they would provide would technically be profit. Now again, I'm not trying to throw that around and be like, we're doing this for the money, but we do understand that this would benefit us pretty well. The number we're throwing around is $100 a day. That's what the other school charges. That's a relationship they have with them, and that's what they go with. Now, yeah, they've also talked about, so furnace goes out, Wi-Fi, airport gets, broken, I don't know, stuff like that. They've talked about, okay, how do we help you since you're helping us? Since they benefit financially from being here. Again, we go back to with our budgeted numbers, everything actually looks like profit. Again, not to be, I don't want to say that's a primary focus because it's not. It's a be a nice byproduct of the partnership. That makes sense?
Because if the community knows that they're here, sometimes they'll be, we now have a school. And we're synonymous with whatever they believe, we believe, and vice versa. I don't know if that's a partnership that is well or would be well. It's just something to think about.
I wish they would give her a mic so we could hear what
I'll repeat it. So they asked about, is there going to be a sign in front? Is there going to be a sign up front? Is the community going to tie us with, okay, they believe this and we believe that? Are they going to think, oh, now we're a school? Yeah, what's that going to look like? I guess Dale and Scott, do you know about the sign? About signage?
They said something about putting it up just when they're here, that it'll say Two Rivers Academy, but nothing.
But nothing permanent, I know that.
Yeah, nothing permanent. It'll be taken down put up in the morning, taken down in the night.
And I do know that, that was one of our biggest questions too, is like, do they believe what we believe theologically? They're right now in a Baptist church, but I would definitely, like when talking with these individuals, it's more like the Reformed Baptists of like Tim Keller, where I'm going to say that, like, yeah, me and Tim Keller disagree maybe on a few traditional things, but theologically, like, yeah, theologically they're really solid. And we would say that we do not differ, because we talked about that. We talked about, the stuff going on with the RCA right now with the homosexuality and human sexuality stuff. Like, do we differ in those things? We talked about some of those major issues. They have come to a consistory meeting and we're vetted, if that's a good word for it, but really making sure that we're not associated with something that we disagree with. She asked what grades. The grade level, I think, is still kind of to be determined. They were looking at 1 through 4, right?
Right now, what they're looking at with the sixth classroom is K through 3.
K through 3.
K through 3. But they do go up to 8th grade, but they think that if they do partner with this, the highest grade here will be 6th. Just a little background with Two Rivers. They started off, few of them got together and said, hey, what does a homeschool look like? Because they were not happy with the public school. And they wanted to teach more Christian values to their kids. When they decided to actually do this, they started with 26 kids, saying, okay, this is what we're going to have. When they went to open up the door, they had over 60. Now they're over 100. And they're still getting requests for people to come in. And they're just trying to find a way of not saying no to the parents that want to be involved. And there's a lot of people that have heard of them.
Well, one of the big questions for us was like, yeah, does this continue with the mission that we have here at Bethany? Does it help us engage our community? And we had to say, well, maybe not yet, because there are people from this area, there are people from, the kind of this north side that are driving down, but there also is a lot of people in this area. One couple I've actually met recently who live just on the other side by the high school that have interest in this school from our area, so it would affect like those in our immediate area as well, provide a service that some are looking for. Again, we do know it's a Christian school, so most people who send their kids to a Christian school are already Christian, but we do understand that this just, again, as a 1 year, first off, is this relationship going to be beneficial? Are we going to look at this as a partnership that we want to continue? We're not looking for a 10-year agreement starting out with.
I just want to add one thing here real quick, is the class sizes that they're looking at is 6 students to 1 teacher. And then they're going to have 1 or 2 kind of like out here in the front is going to be their administrators, kind of their security to make sure who's coming in, who's not supposed to be here.
By when does our leadership have to make a decision?
When they approach us and ask us for formal approval, because again, they don't know if they have enough interest into having like a school here.
So if we have more questions after today that we think of, can we just give that to one of our consistory for them to present to them?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Whether that's here, now, if it does get approved, because the consistory hasn't given a formal approval either, because they haven't said, yeah, we want to be here. They're saying, yeah, we might want to be here, and so we're like, okay, well, we are headed in this direction. We're still waiting for, a reason not to, and until then, like, we're still following after, what we think God is maybe leading us to. Again, like I said earlier, God has opened many doors, many cool doors, in my opinion. A lot of them have been shut, and this one just hasn't been shut yet.
So if they're just wanting access to classrooms, do they have to have full reign of the whole church? Or can we keep them back in the classroom area and they can use that back entrance? That's a question. That'll keep down on damages, possible damages?
I'm not worried about damages. If they do, again, they've talked about, like, if they break something, they'll fix it. Again, I think we talked about, when is our church being used during those days anyway? Minus one Bible study.
Well, the reason I'm building on that is if we want to make this a community center, it needs to be available. Other parts of the church need to be available for other activities. So that's why I said if they want the schoolrooms, maybe they need to be back there so that we can use the rest of the church for other activities.
I think we'll get to that point later if that time comes, but as of right now, like, they'll do chapel in here, what they've talked about. But yeah, most of the time is going to be spent in those classrooms. But as of right now, we haven't had those discussions yet because we don't have those opportunities that people are coming here during the day.
Okay, and then how long of a contract are you considering as far as?
Just a year.
Just a year, like a try-on?
Yep.
And that at any time during that year that we could break off and say this is not working for us?
We could, but I said that earlier with one of Connie's questions. I think the gracious thing would be to honor it for the year. So we're looking at September through May for that, again, typical school year.
Okay, so you're going to charge them a fee to use our facility?
I mean, yeah.
Okay. And then the other question I had was, I just lost it. It just went out the door. It'll probably come back. Sorry.
I say good job by you guys, Scott and Jacob and the rest of the consistory. And I think that the makeup of that group would do an excellent job of coming to an agreement. Either coming to an agreement or not coming to an agreement. So go at it. Good job.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions as a whole of anything that's going on? It doesn't have to be just for the school, but I know that was going to be the most question-heavy part. If you find any broken links on the website where it doesn't function the way it says it's supposed to, let me know. Also, in preparation for, again, June 23 and June 30th, there is a place on there. It's under, I think, the Bethany 101, where you can check out the spiritual gift assessment, log into that, take that survey, and then you'll be sent results from that. That'll be a good preparation thing for those days. There won't be time during those days to take that test. Or again, there's hard copies that should be returned before those days too on the welcome booth. Last thing I'm going to say is that have patience. I know that the thought process of revitalization, hey, we're going to make a U-turn, right, we're going to make some different adjustments and things are just going to go completely our way, people are just going to flock here. It's not always the way it goes. No, revitalization takes a long time. Renewal takes a long time. We look at even our hearts. How often do we make maybe the same mistakes or we fall into the same temptations over and over and over again before finally, through the Holy Spirit, we were able to break those temptations. So those things take time. Again, we're in a really funky year right now. Hopefully seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. We're doing, as a state, doing really good with COVID percentages. Hopefully less and less restrictions as we keep going and be able to really start relaunching some of our programs and initiatives. And really, the reason why we started this sermon series now and not last July is this is a great time to invite people in. People feel like they're ready to go make those connections with others again. Restaurants are filling up, they're packed. We're going to have some other events. If you have an idea for an event or something, let us know. But again, just trying to think of those invite-friendly things here at church. No other questions? Scott, you pray us out of here?
Father, as we come to you today, we thank you for this day that you have given us. Lord, we thank you for the sermon that we had, and as we go forward throughout this week and these next months, if we don't have a one, please help show us who it is and lay that person on our hearts. And if we already do have a one and we're working with them, again, guide us and show us the direction and give us the wisdom to make that connection so that we can bring them to you, whether it's inviting them to church or just sitting down to coffee and talking about you. Lord, as we go throughout this day, we thank you for everything that you've given us, and that we ask that you be with us as we go forward so that everything we do and say that it may be pleasing in your sight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you.